So we'll get started this morning. I'm Cassandra for those who I haven't met yet. We'll practice until about 10:45 today. Hold lots of space for a long rest at the end. Like I mentioned, a few items that we feel comfortable stepping on. We're gonna do some balance work today. And what's one other thing I was gonna say? I don't know. Let's get started though. So however you want to settle in, we're going to just sort of arrive for the next 5 minutes. So whether that looks like a seated position or I see some folks rolling into constructive rest, the place we love to land for our arrival. Just honoring what your body needs this morning, making some room for that. Just quieting down and being able to tune in to listen a little bit deeper. If there's things that come up that we can offer ourselves, we'll spend about 5 minutes doing that. Breathing in through our nose. Allowing some space and time for what has come before this moment to be what it is, and practice coming into the present moment, to what is now. On average, we have about 20,000 breaths in a day. Maybe we can think about some really nourishing opportunities for breath together in the next hour. Simple breaths in through our nose. They may exit out of our nose or out of our mouth, but utilizing our nostrils as that first line of defense, as that really gentle entrance point into our lungs, an hour of nourishing breaths. About 10 more breaths wherever we've landed for our arrival. So if we're going to incorporate music into our practice today, there should have been a playlist on the email. You can make your way to pushing play, and then we'll actually, we will come back to a constructive rest. So once we land in constructive rest, we're going to do some fascial work today. So thinking about this morning, I'm going to put a blanket underneath my head and neck for some extra support in my constructive rest. Once I land on the ground here, I'll get sort of settled in my lower back. I've mentioned this before, but oftentimes I kind of just like lift up into a bridge and then press back down, sort of making space for my tailbone, for my sacrum, for my vertebrae, all of them sort of extend. Making lots of room for our lower and mid back to settle in here. And then what we'll do is cross our right leg over our left. And then slowly, we're going to bring both of our feet or our legs towards the left side. So the goal would be that our right foot would get planted on the ground here. You might need to bring the ground closer to you, so you could always place like blankets underneath the foot here. So I'll do the motion once more, but it's just right over left, and then hopefully the right foot can plant. But always remember that you have that like magical power of bringing the ground to you. So then once you land here, it's a little bit of just playing around, but you're going to find the bottom of your rib cage. And starting from the outside of your rib cage, you'll just sort of tuck your fingers underneath your rib cage if you feel safe doing so. It's like a gentle pull or a gentle tug. And you'll move your way from one side of your rib cage all the way back down. So from the outside in, and then from the inside out. Noticing where you might be holding any tension and seeing if you can support those spaces in your body. I'm noticing like my left butt cheek and my outside of my left thigh. There's fascia here that connects to like the deep, deep parts of our hip. And so we can make some space there. What else might open up? Can you breathe in through your nose here? Wrapping up the side, pressing into maybe your left foot, coming back to center, dropping the right. Maybe there's a movement here in between, like maybe you can float through a few bridges before coming to find the other side. And when you're ready, crossing the left leg over, the left foot starts to slowly make its way towards the right. Plant it on the ground if we can, bringing the ground to us if we need to. And then that same, just bringing your fingertips to the edge of your rib cage, pulling, tugging, making your way from the outside in. And then back out again. Nourishing breaths in through your nose. Just explore here for a few more breaths. Slowly making your way back to center. We're going to land in what yoga calls a Supta Baddha Konasana, or reclined bound angle. So the bottoms of your feet come together, and then we're going to gently lower the outsides of our knees towards the ground. Again, thinking about what props you brought to support yourself, and maybe some of those props come to land underneath the outsides of your knees, the outsides of your thighs. Sometimes I even use my fist here. Sort of plant them on the outsides of my thighs. And then remembering, like, you're the keeper of that fine kind of line, that balance of discomfort and pain. So let's not bring any pain into the space today, but maybe we can explore a bit of discomfort, still staying in like our own comfort though, not really pushing or pressing too hard. Noticing the stretch. And remembering, like, you have agency over your own practice and your body. And so moving in and out if it's not working for you, and offering yourself what is working for you. This is not like a script. This is just a space to be together. I may read this to us a few times this morning, but from the book, The Yamas and Niyamas, which is the ethical practice of movement and yoga, the author, Deborah Dell, writes about maintaining center. The Buddhists speak of developing an abiding calm, a centeredness that is unshakable, like a tall tree so rooted in the earth that great winds cannot topple it. This, for me, is the image of contentment. It means not riding the waves of the ups and downs of life. It means that we not only agree to what is in the moment, but we actually welcome it. It means that in all the noise and demands of modernity, we stay in the abiding calm center. This is the mastery of life that contentment invites us into. The practice of gratitude and non-seeking can help us stay rooted in this jewel. We make space for our breath and for movement, being able to listen in a bit deeper. To me, that is like the abiding calm, that center. That feels like a place of balance. From here, bringing your knees together for a few breaths, tucking them in towards your chest. You might rock a little bit here. Your rock from left to right, from side to side. And then if you feel up for it, then maybe your rock can move along the whole length of the spine. And maybe you can even land in a seat from here. Okay, we've landed. Once we land, we'll find our easy seat. Maybe we support our bottom here. And we'll get some neck stretches in before we work on some standing balancing. So thinking about your support here of the foundation, you know, like everything touching the ground, right? So noticing your whole bottom, all parts of your legs that are rooted to the ground, the parts of your feet rooted to the ground. Thinking about stacking those vertebrae neatly on top of one another. And then the right arm will just reach over towards the left ear, and you'll gently bring your right ear towards your shoulder. Can you breathe in through your nose here? Your nose towards the ground now. The gaze back towards the center of the room. That hand comes to meet the right ear now, bringing your head back to neutral, dropping the right hand, left arm across to find your right ear. Left ear comes towards the shoulder. Gaze towards the ground now. Nose back towards center. Hand can find the left ear now, coming back to the center, and then just your gaze towards the right. And then slowly making your way to the left. And then back, chin to chest. And then gaze up towards the ceiling. And then back to center. If you brought a ball to practice, this would be a nice time to support all of those like accessory muscles that help us breathe, right? So pressing into our chest, maybe along our shoulder blades here. We'll just take like 2 or 3 minutes. And if you didn't bring a ball to class, you can always use your fist. We tend to these muscles, I just think of like our breath is not just our breath, right? There's so many pieces, parts of us that support our breath. Beginning to wrap up this part of our care. We will all come to find a standing pose together. Once we land, take your time. Let's see. I'm gonna readjust here. Steve, elbow me. So once we get onto our feet, our first balance this morning can be as big or small as you need it to be. So it's just going to begin by lifting one of your legs off of the ground and coming kind of in and out of balance. So your movements can be like really exaggerated and really big. And if that's not accessible to you this morning, it can just sort of be like a back and forth with a leg here. And remembering that balance is not stillness, balance is coming, like habitually coming back to balance over and over, right? So it's not about stillness, but about coming back to that moment of balance or that breath of balance. If you haven't switched sides, you can do so when you're ready. focus on where your balance is this morning. Slowing your movements down, coming back to center, landing in a mountain pose. Our feet will be about hip distance apart, that micro bend in our knees, lengthen our spine, crown of our head reaches for the ceiling. Just noticing what comes up for us. And then from here, you can put your hands on your hips if that's a safe place to bring your body together. And then we'll just work on a figure 8 movement with our hips. Try to find the last creaky spot in the floor here. As big or small as feels right for you this morning. Hope and I have been wrapping up a training with a movement practitioner in Toronto, and this symbol, this figure 8, the symbol of infinity, is all over her work, and also all over, right? But thinking about this tool, right, of the figure 8 movements with our body, it can be as simple as our finger moving. It can be writing figure 8s on paper, but this practice of bringing the shape into our life and our movement offers a lot of support for our brain, right? So it connects our left and right sides of our brain, but it also brings us back into executive functioning of our brain. So oftentimes we think about a window of capacity, right? I am stressed, but I am capable. That feels like the right words for in your window of capacity. But if you have left your window of capacity, your brain is no longer in this sort of executive functioning. And this movement, this shape, can help bring our brain back into that space. It's called flipping our lid. So you might even practice it now, incorporating some balance, right? So getting rooted in the left foot, and then that figure 8 movement with your right. Again, as big or small as feels right for you this morning. And then changing directions. And then switching sides. And then switching directions. This is also a practice we can think about incorporating when we're in seated positions. Whether it's just tracing our foot along the floor, again, writing it out on a piece of paper, figure 8 with our nose. Coming back to center again. Finding that mountain pose for a few breaths. Really rooted, feet about hip distance apart, that micro bend in the knees. Nice elongated spine, crown of the head reaches for the ceiling. That last cue kind of like perking up, like you're listening to a conversation happening behind you. There you go. Nourishing breaths in through our nose. And then we'll shake it out. If the ball is close by, let's do some myofascial release on our feet before we do some more balance. So you just use the ball underneath the bottom of your foot, rolling, pressing in the juicy places. If you don't have a ball this morning, give yourself a bit of a foot massage. Take your time on each foot and switch whenever you feel ready. We'll just start to think about wrapping up our myofascial release practice. Okay, so the next part of our balance is just going to take a minute or two to prep. So you'll clear the space that you are practicing in to make sure that that you have a safe sort of space to move around. And then those items that you grabbed, you'll just place them around the room. So the best way for me to describe this, I keep going back to my kids playing like the floor is lava, right? So you'll just disperse these items along your space, and the goal is going to be that your feet will come to each item without touching the ground. And if you need to like turn your camera off for this part, you're more than welcome, but whatever makes you feel comfortable. So you'll just begin the practice, right, by one foot landing on an item and then coming to the next item. Take your time. Yes, I love it so much. The floor is lava. Yes. All right, now both feet on the ground once you can wrap up whichever props you've landed on, and just sort of find your footing and stand and notice. Notice what arrives or what comes up for you, how you're feeling. And so we're gonna just sort of amp up the difficulty level here. A reminder that you all have agency over your own practice. So yes, do or don't do. So the next stepping would be to try to bring your gaze forward. So allowing your feet to find the item rather than your eyes helping you find the items. Noticing just like the difficulty level amping up that might require you to slow down. And remembering you can also look down at any time, right? Just a couple minutes here. Once you've finished up, take your time, wrapping up your floor with lava, coming to the ground again. Just noticing. So we're going to get into that scapula freedom before another balance pose. So once you've found a nice place to stand, just rolling each shoulder individual of themselves. Kind of like you're going in for that bear hug. You'll just have a real wide open arm, fingertips together. Just retract and the protract of the scapula. Those nourishing breaths in through your nose. Elbows can come tucked close to your sides here, and then flapping your hands open and then onto your belly. Flapping open onto your belly. And then those football post arms, goal post arms, and then twisting in the ribs to the right, twisting in the ribs to the left. Then your palms face forward, hands up towards the sky, just lifting the shoulder blades up and down the back. Releasing the hands now, just pulling the shoulder blades towards one another, releasing. Bringing the shoulder blades together and releasing. A few more times. So from here, we're going to get into an eagle pose. So we'll get real rooted in our left foot here. Let's see if I can get my head in the rear. So real rooted in the left foot. And you'll begin just by lifting your toes, your heel off the ground so that your toes just kind of come to the ground, right? And then they might just like lift up a little bit off the ground. And then that right foot's going to cross over the left, right? Thinking about, you can keep your toes planted on the ground, and that can be as far as you take it, or you can wrap that right leg around the left. Right, so then the right leg comes behind the left leg. Big bend in your knees, you'll start to sink. And then if you'd like to incorporate arms, it will be right under left, palms together. Remember, the balance is not about stillness. The balance is about the habitual coming back into balance. So falling out is also part of the balance, right? Sinking in. You can find a drishti or a focal point ahead of you, something that does not move. And let your breath help you stay for just a few more rounds. In through your nose. Rising, releasing, and shaking that shit out. So taking a few breath cycles to get real rooted in the right foot now. Once you feel steady and rooted, right foot rooted, left foot crosses over. Again, the toes might just come to the ground and that might be where you land. You might continue to wrap that foot around the right, bending your knees, sinking in. If and when you're ready for arms, left under right, palms together. Inviting some of that heat that we're feeling in our legs. Breathing in through our nose. Sinking in, and then releasing, untwisting, shaking it out. find some big swings in our arms here. Slowing the movement down. Finding center. And then just a few breath cycles of those figure eights again with your hips. See if you can change directions. Those little quick tricks for our brain are really helpful. And from here, let's move into a forward fold. You can have a really wide stance this morning, a big bend in your knees. Your chest might even come to land on top of the tops of your legs here. Maybe you even stack some of those props that you brought in front of you, bringing the ground closer. A few more rounds of breath here. So on your next inhale, you can halfway lift. Your hands can graze the fronts of your legs. And then your exhale, your hands can graze the backs of your legs, coming back into forward fold. A few rounds like this, moving with your own breath. Inhaling, halfway lift, hands graze the front of your legs. Exhale, the back of your legs down to forward fold. With a bend in your knees, you can slowly begin to rise. Take time. Your hands can come up overhead now. Your right hand grabs your left wrist. Both of your arms moving to the right, that side, body stretch to the left. Inhaling back to center, switching sides, side body stretch. both of your hip pointers facing the front of the room. Both feet rooted into the ground. All 10 toes there to support you. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bend back just a little. Inhale, rise. Exhale your hands to heart center. We all have access to a wall. If we can have access to a wall, we're going to go there. Let's see, it's a standing pose. Move me this way so you can all see me. So once you land on the wall, your feet come a bit forward off of the wall, maybe like a step or two. And it's almost like an angel pose here. So you can look at my pose and then go to where you need to go. A little bit of a bend in your knees. See if you can plant the whole mid back, the back of your head on the wall. Pressing with the backs of your hands against the wall. If you have any like high affect feelings or experiences, any anxiety come up, you can come off the wall at any time. This opportunity to build a bit of strength. We'll just breathe here for as long as we feel comfortable, maybe a round of 10 breaths or so. Releasing, coming off the wall. So we're gonna take just a few personal moments to care for ourselves before we find a final resting pose. So tending to yourself in whatever makes sense for the next few minutes. Moving through whatever that looks like. Just bring us back together in about 4 minutes or so. 1 or 2 more minutes here. And starting to think about what your final resting pose should be this morning. Yeah, I just want to say out loud, sometimes it's just not Shavasana, right? Like sometimes it's just not that. So offering yourself the time to tune in to see what it might be. It might be a seated pose against the wall or some form of your own Shavasana, your own version of a surrender. And wherever you land, you are not obligated to stay, but we will have about 11 minutes. Yes, legs at the wall. All right, I'll read to you all what felt like balance for me this morning. It's called Life Story. When I lived under the black oaks, I felt I was made of leaves. When I lived by Little Sister Pond, I dreamed I was the feather of the blue heron left on the shore. I was the pond lily, my root delicate as an artery, my face like a star, my happiness brimming. Later, I was the footsteps that follow the sea. I knew the tides, I knew the ingredients of the rack. I knew the eider, the red-throated loon with his uplifted beak and his smart eye. I felt I was the tip of the wave, the pearl of water on the eider's glossy back. No, there's no escaping, nor would I want to escape this outgo, this foot loosening, this solution to gravity and a single shape. Now I am here. Later I will be there. I will be that small cloud staring down at the water, the one that stalls, that lifts its white legs, that looks like a lamb. As you settle in for the next 7 minutes or so, coming back to that breath in through your nose, those nourishing breaths in through your nose. Breath in through your nose. And then some kind of gentle offering to yourself. Just a way to bring your physical body back. Wherever you landed, maybe you transition onto a fetal position, onto a side, or whatever next best thing. Breath in through your nose. Then when you feel ready, we'll all meet in a seated position. So maybe we create some heat in between our hands here and come to find a prayer mudra if that's in your practice, or Anjali mudra. Thumbs to your sternum, fingers nice and tall, reaching for the ceiling. Maybe we can share a breath here in through our nose. And if bowing is a part of your practice, so nice to be together this morning. Thank you.